What's up guys, my name's Brian, the owner of Engine Performance. Today I'm going to show you how to install an MBRP exhaust system with carbon fiber tips on a 2021 Dodge Challenger Scat Pack. Now the version we're going to be installing is the race version. However, this installation will work for both the race version and street version models. Now this specific exhaust system will work on model years 2015 to 2023 on RT, Scat Pack, and Hellcat models. This specific exhaust will not work on the SXT or GT models. If you're interested in purchasing one of these exhaust systems for your Dodge Challenger, you can do so directly on our website at ngencustoms.com. Let's get started. Once you've removed the MBRP exhaust system from the box, you want to lay out all the components to make sure you have everything necessary to complete the install. That's going to include your 2 carbon fiber tips, a total of 10 3-inch band clamps, 2 2 3/4 inch and 2 2.5 inch band clamps, 2 2.5 inch adapter pipes, as well as 2 2 3/4 inch adapter pipes. Now the 2 3/4 inch are going to be used for your Scat Pack and Hellcat models, and those will be the ones we'll be using today. And then the 2 2.5 inch adapter pipes are used for RT models. You have your 2 connector pipes, which on the race version are essentially straight pipes, and on the street version, they will be actual resonators. You have 2 of your under axle pipes. These pipes are the ones used to install your factory exhaust valve actuators. You have your X pipe, and then your 2 tail pipes, and then finally, the additional bolts to install the exhaust valve actuators to the under axle pipes. All right, before we begin removing the stock exhaust, here's a sound clip of what the stock exhaust sounds like. So let's go over the tools you're going to need to get the job done. Check it out. You're going to need an impact, a couple extensions, a small flathead screwdriver, an 8 and a 13 millimeter wrench, a 3/8 inch and a 1/2 inch socket wrench, some penetrating oil like WD-40 or PB Blaster, or you can also use a mixture of water and dish soap, a couple 15 millimeter deep sockets, a 13 millimeter socket, an 8 millimeter socket, and a set of exhaust hanger pliers. All right, we're going to start by loosening up these clamps that connect to the mid pipes and cats. So what we're going to use a 15 millimeter socket on both of these. Now what's strongly recommended is actually to use some penetrating oil to spray on these before you begin. I actually did that previously, so we shouldn't have an issue. Once you get them loose, you can use an impact. All right, next you need to disconnect the connector to the exhaust valve actuator. Now, you got 2 of them total. This one's the passenger side, and you got another one on the driver's side. Simply take a small flathead, press on this tab up here, and then you should be able to pull it right up and disconnect. And you're gonna do the same thing for the driver's side one. All right, next, you're gonna have these push pins
where the wiring is that goes to the exhaust valve actuator. You have one on the passenger side and one on the driver. This is on the passenger side. We're just going to simply work it back and forth to get it out. All right, you're going to do the same thing for the driver's side. Okay, the next step is now we need to remove these brackets from the vehicle. Again, there's one on the passenger side and the driver's side. Best is to use a 13mm wrench to loosen and get these bolts out. Now I'm working on the passenger side right now, which you do have more room than on the driver's side. And once you get it loose enough, you should be able just to turn it with your fingers. And make sure you don't lose this bolt because you will be reusing it. All right, here we have it on the driver's side. Now you're going to see that you have less room on the driver's side, so you're going to get smaller movements when you're loosening the bolt. But just like on the passenger side, once you get it loose enough, you should be able to twist it off with your fingers. Here we go. All right, there we go. All right, the next step is down where the exhaust tips are at. You're gonna see a bolt that secures the bracket. Simply take a 13mm with an extension to remove it. All right, we have the same thing on the passenger side. 13mm socket. All right, now that you have the exhaust loose, you want to go back to those middle exhaust brackets, because what you're going to see is there's a tab right here, so you can actually push up on the exhaust. And once you push up, you can actually take this bracket and get it off this tab. All right, and now let's do the driver's side. Okay, once we push up on the exhaust, move the bracket, and now you're going to feel the exhaust is going to be very loose, which will enable you to remove it from the vehicle.
All right, now you should be able to remove the stock exhaust from the vehicle. As you can see, the stock exhaust is all one unit, which does make it a bit of a challenge to get off the vehicle. Now, the easiest way to do this, and you can do it by yourself, but it is easier to have more than one person, is simply look at each exhaust tip. So you can see here, if you grab one hand here, and then you grab the other one here, and as you're grabbing them, kind of start moving it back and forth, up and down, and with it as straight as possible, that's when you can start removing it from the vehicle. That's what I found was the easiest way to do it. But again, if you have a second person, it's a lot easier. All right, next step is we need to remove a few components from the stock exhaust because they will be reused on the MBRP exhaust. So what we're gonna start with is we're gonna start with these two exhaust hangers. So the first thing is you wanna make sure that you lubricate them. Now you can use penetrating oil, or a lot of times I'll end up using just a mixture of dish soap and water, and that seems to work great. Next, you're gonna take some exhaust hanger pliers to remove them. And again, since they've been lubricated, they're usually a lot easier to remove at this point. If you don't have a set of these, I highly recommend getting a pair. All right, there's one. and 2.
The next step is we need to remove this ground wire from the passenger side tailpipe. It just clamps on because you are going to want to make sure that we put that on the new exhaust. So it simply just presses off here. And what you can do is for now, you can leave it attached to this exhaust hanger for when we reinstall it to the vehicle. All right, next we're going to remove these exhaust hangers from the tailpipes on both sides. Same thing, just get them nice and lubricated with either that penetrating oil or the combination of the water and the dish soap. And get your exhaust pliers and go ahead and remove it. Now we're going to do the same thing on the driver's side. All right, now we're removing the driver's side exhaust hanger at the tailpipe. All right, next we need to remove both of the exhaust valve actuators from the stock exhaust. It's secured with 3 8mm nuts. You can see one here, and one here. I'm just going to simply use a small impact to remove them. Make sure you don't lose these nuts because you will be reusing them. There we go. All right, now we're going to remove the passenger side exhaust valve actuator. Same thing, 3 8mm nuts. Sometimes they can be a little tricky to get off. You want to be careful not to break them. But just kind of work them back and forth and they'll come off. There we go. All right, I want to point out something real quick because one of the things that's very important is that these exhaust valve actuators, you need to make sure that they're installed in the right spot. Well, they make it easy because as you can see, you've got an R and an L. So the R is for right or passenger side, L is for left or driver's side. So as long as you pay attention to the part numbers, you should be able to put them in the right spot. All right, at the workbench, we've got the driver's side tailpipe and we have the driver's side exhaust valve actuator. Again, as you can see, we've got an L here, stands for left. So this is a little bit tricky to install onto this tailpipe. Now, one thing you want to make sure of is you can see the connector is up top. You're going to turn it and then slide it onto this hook. That's going to allow you then to be able to turn this actuator to be able to line it up so that you can put the bolts in. Now, as you can see, I've got the bolt and the flathead washer. I'm going to go ahead and put it in here. And now I'm going to take the factory nut and I'm going to attempt to hold it in place and try to get it started, which can be the challenging part here. All right, once you've got it started, you can try to get it a little bit finger tight. but just enough where it's on there, and then you can work to get the other ones on. All right, now we're going to put the third one on. And once we get these kind of finger tight, then we can tighten them down correctly. Okay, now that it's on kind of finger tight, now we can go ahead and tighten them up. Okay, to tighten them up, I'm going to use an 8mm wrench on the nut, hold it in place, and then just take an 8mm socket with an impact, tighten them up. All right, there we go. Okay, once you've completed installing the exhaust valve actuator on the tailpipe on the driver's side, you want to repeat the same process on the passenger side. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and reinstall the exhaust hangers where the tailpipes are at. Take my bolt, go ahead and get it started. And then finish it off with an impact, 13mm socket. All right, we're gonna do the same thing on the passenger side. Remember, the passenger side exhaust bracket has that ground wire. Same thing, 13mm socket, tighten it down. All right, now we're gonna reinstall the other exhaust hangers. They simply hook into place. Take your bolt. You can go ahead and screw it in finger tight. And then once you are done, then you can go ahead and tighten it down. And you're simply going to use a 13mm wrench to get it tight. All right, now we're gonna do the same thing on the driver's side. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and hook this exhaust hanger the same way. Go ahead and start the bolt. Now this side particularly, you want to get as tight as you can before you use the wrench, because you do have limited movement to be able to tighten it down. All right, there we go. All right, now go ahead and reconnect the wire to the exhaust valve actuator. Go ahead and push that back in on both sides. All right, now it's time to start installing the components for the MBRP exhaust system. So we're going to start with the adapter pipes. which we'll be using the 2 3/4 inch pipes since this is going on a Scat Pack. So simply slide them on. Now, I would not recommend tightening them down yet. I would wait until you have the whole exhaust system on. That way you can make adjustments easily. And then, of course, you can tighten them down at that point. All right, just a quick note. When you're installing those adapter pipes, you can see these clamps are the 2 3/4 inch clamps, not the 3-inch clamps. So make sure you're using those and not the 3-inch ones. Now, of course, if you're installing this one on RT, you're gonna use the 2.5 inch clamps, not the 2 3/4 or the 3-inch. All right, now we're gonna install the X pipe. Now, one thing to remember is when you're installing this, the pipes that are closer together are gonna go towards the adapter pipes, whereas the pipes that are spread further apart is gonna go towards the rear of the vehicle. Now, the one thing you need to remember is when you're installing this pipe here is the driver's side, and the way you can tell is this pipe actually curves in a little bit, whereas this one is straight. So make sure this pipe goes on the driver's side, otherwise your exhaust won't line up properly. All right, now we're gonna install the X pipe. It should just slide right onto the adapter pipes. All right, there we go. And we do have the 3-inch clamps on here, which we're not going to tighten down yet until the whole exhaust is installed. All right, next we're going to install the connector pipes, which on the race version, those are basically the straight pipes. If you're doing the street version, that's going to be the resonators. All right, next we're going to install the under axle pipes. Now the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you slide these clamps on first, because these under axle pipes are going to be going into the connector pipes. There we go. All right, when you're putting these in, first thing you want to do is go ahead and hook it into the exhaust hanger. And then you can work it onto the connector pipe. We're gonna do the same thing on the passenger side. All right, there we go. All right, now we need to install the tailpipe. We're going to start with the driver's side. You want to make sure that you put it in the exhaust hanger first. Slide it in, and then you go ahead and put it over the under axle pipe. All right, now we're going to install the passenger side. Same thing. Go ahead and slide it through the exhaust hanger first. And then connect it to the under axle pipe. There we go. That one's a little harder to connect, but it will go on. Okay. All right, now we want to go ahead and put on the exhaust tips. Now don't worry if they're not lined up perfectly yet, because we're going to do that after we tighten everything on the exhaust. All right, now we're going to put on the passenger side. All right, now we're going to go ahead and connect that ground strap on the passenger side. It just simply clamps on like so. All right, now we're going to go ahead and reconnect those valve actuators. Make sure they snap into place. All right, the next step is for you to align the exhaust. Now, you're going to have to make various adjustments. You may have to twist a connector pipe here or a tailpipe, adjust the exhaust tips. There's a few things that you'll have to do to align it just right. Once it's perfect, go ahead and tighten all the band clamps to 45 foot-pounds of torque. After that, you're ready to roll. Now, let's hear how it sounds. So this concludes the video on how to install the MBRP exhaust system with carbon fiber tips on a 2021 Dodge Challenger Scat Pack. Now, if you're interested in purchasing one of these MBRP exhaust systems for your Dodge Challenger, you can do so directly on our website at ngencustoms.com. And if you like the video, make sure to hit that like button as well as that subscribe and notification bell, so that way you never miss any future install videos. And until next time, I'm out.